There's way too much emphasis on the hokey pokey part.
That is what it's all about.
No, that's exactly what I mean. That's not what the song is saying.
Hey, hello, how do you do? Shady Doorags here. Well, as many of you have been constantly reminding me, despite Bojack being over, I've still got some unfinished business with it. Our beloved Horseman has reached his final destination, and if I don't make a video about how he got there, people are gonna find me and lynch me. So, let's get started. When we last left Bojack in Season 6 Part 1, he was in the best place he had ever been throughout the series, and perhaps even throughout his life. He was able to fully conquer his substance abuse problems, tackling the root of them. He was helping people, specifically those in his life, which made the world a better place overall. And he finally learned to forgive himself, believing he could find happiness. And that's where Part 2 starts off. Bojack is actually happy, being able to help students as a college professor. He starts off rocky, making small mistakes like writing his name in permanent marker, but it turns out he's overall really good at the job. And while Bojack does face problems with his new life, they are nothing compared to what he's used to going through. His biggest upset is Hollyhock being reluctant to spend time with him, but when he confronts her about it, she tells him it's simply a matter of too much too soon. Hollyhock does drop a red flag.
I thought you were in a fight.
Yeah, but I still love her.
Are we in a fight?
Yeah, but... yeah.
But Bojack, being slightly preoccupied, doesn't pick up on it. So, Bojack has the life he's been waiting so long for. He's loved and appreciated, he's making the world a better place, and he doesn't hate himself. Things are finally looking his way. Until...
You need to stop this.
What?
The reporters who keep trying to get Penny to tell her story.
Bojack gets a call from Charlotte informing him that reporters are looking into his situation with Penny. This is a horrible upset for Bojack. If the Penny situation got out into the public eye, it could ruin him. Now, what Princess Carolyn says about the situation is true.
You did nothing illegal, and even the not illegal thing you didn't even do.
But we all know the public wouldn't see it that way. Shoot, most of us don't see it that way. How long before a story about Bojack almost getting with a young girl affects his job as a professor, where he's constantly with young women? As Diane points out, however, the Penny situation might ruin Bojack, but it's not a juicy enough story. These reporters must be after something else, and the group needs to figure out what. By the way, there's a whole plethora of metaphors one could come up with using that whiteboard and the fact that Professor Horseman is written in permanent ink. Bojack can't erase his past. Bojack is the one constant in everything bad he's ever done. Bojack is effectively a neatly written stain on what otherwise would be something pure, etc. Eventually, Diane gets a call which informs everyone that the truth the reporters are after is the Sarah Lynn story. This entire situation is to demonstrate consequence. Bojack might have changed and hasn't done anything wrong since rehab, but that's not going to stop his past wrongs from coming up. He will still have to deal with people he's hurt, even as a changed horse. Dealing with this stress, Bojack begins to regress in his attitude. He suggests playing the Uno reverse card and scheming to take the reporters down before they get to him.
I'll bet there's dirt on them that we could dig up.
I don't think that's it.
Yeah, that'll teach those bloodthirsty leeches what happens when they try to tear someone down over their past without even considering the possibility that he's changed.
He also panics when he has to face the reporters, lying once again about what actually happened with Sarah Lynn.
Thank you for your time.
What happened to being honest?
I didn't think that it would happen so fast.
Diane and Todd see Bojack's regressive nature and don't want anything to do with it. Princess Carolyn, however, sees things differently.
I have loved you for 25 years, and I never loved anyone better. That kind of love, you only get it when you're young and stupid. I'm not gonna get it again. And when I tell my daughter the story of the great love of my life, I want it to have a happy ending.
So it's up to Princess Carolyn and Bojack to figure out how to get through this scenario unscathed. The plan is Biscuits Brixby. Like before with Gina, Princess Carolyn and Biscuits plan to present Bojack to the public, only this time, instead of denying the allegations, Bojack will take responsibility for them, while Biscuits makes him look sympathetic. All of our main characters know what this is, a manipulation tactic to present the truth while making the audience feel what they want them to. And it works! After the interview, the truth is out, but everyone is completely understanding about it. Bojack begins to feel levity of the situation, which shifts to pride. So much so that he wants to do a second interview. He claims that he wants to further the conversation to continue to make people happy, which could definitely be true, but we're given context clues that the positive attention is going to his head, like it always does, and he wants to continue to ride that train. So Bojack and Biscuits do the second interview. But
I thought we were going to talk about other stuff.
What did you do after you called your own phone, Bojack?
I went outside to the parking lot.
And you just waited there for 17 minutes.
Why are you asking about this?
Bojack gets cornered by Biscuits. Same tactic as the first interview, but this time her goal is to make him look unsympathetic. Bojack, ill-prepared, goes hard on the defensive, which just makes things worse. Bojack now has to face the full effect of being cancelled. Side note, yes, I admit it. In my review of the series finale, I completely forgot that Bojack said the thing about loving Sarah Lynn, and that is why Princess Carolyn was feeling antsy. It was not necessarily because she agreed with Biscuits, though that is still a possibility. So, Bojack begins going through his cancellation, and exactly what he expected to happen, happens. People keep disrespecting him, he loses tons of money and his house in legal battles, and his public image is so tarnished he's forced to quit his teaching job. Even his friends are distancing themselves from him due to the situation, save Mr. Peanut Butter, who is loyal to the end and actually lets Bojack live with him. But Bojack can barely tolerate Mr. Peanut Butter on an occasional basis, let alone living with him. During this time, with all this horrible treatment happening to him, Bojack is clinging to one shred of hope: Hollyhock. He hopes he can maintain a relationship with Hollyhock, and if he could just talk to her, he could save the one they have. Eventually, Bojack receives a letter from Hollyhock, her only attempt to communicate with him. He immediately becomes afraid of the letter and decides to withhold from reading it. Because of his situation, Bojack is forced to befriend Vance Wagner, whom the show has shown to be the scummiest when it comes to Hollywood, but also an expert at making a comeback. Vance, despite his nature, actually does show Bojack a bright side. It isn't that Bojack can't keep going, but he can't keep going as a good guy. People want to hate Bojack, and the best way to turn the situation around is to give the people what they want. And thus, the idea of the horny unicorn is born. While traveling around with Vance, things do start to look somewhat up for Bojack. He's now got work, and there's a subset of people who actually sympathize with him. However, Bojack starts to believe that despite his comfort, he's not where he's supposed to be. After hearing that Hollyhock disconnected her number, he finally decides to read what her letter says. I've seen a couple of theories on what was on the letter, but I think the most popular and obvious conclusion, Hollyhock choosing to cut Bojack off, is the right one, mainly because of how Bojack reacts to it and this foreshadowing earlier.
And you don't want to open it?
I'm not ready. As long as I don't read it, she's still in my life.
It's good to have people that remind us why we stay sober. That's what my daughter is for me.
And after reading the letter, Bojack stops caring about everything around him and starts drinking again. So, Bojack has hit a new rock bottom. Society hates him, he's fallen off the bandwagon, he's losing all of his money, and the person whom he cared about the most is no longer in his life. How can things possibly get any worse for him?
Hello.
Bojack, this is Angela Diaz.
Bojack visits Angela, who has a proposition for him. After drilling into his guilt, Angela offers Bojack a significant sum of money to relinquish his earnings from horsing around, so the company can remake it without him in it. She's asking Bojack to disconnect from and allow them to overwrite his first significant and perhaps most memorable work. The temptation from the money alone is already great, but it's the final blow from Angela that seals the deal.
Do it for Sarah Lynn. Doesn't she deserve more than to be remembered as the girl you killed?
Afterwards, Bojack allows himself to get completely drunk. It's here that Angela drops the final bombshell on him.
Oh, Herb was gay and I had to convince you to let us fire him?
Let you?
You probably don't even remember. But I had this whole speech I practiced in the mirror. I was terrified you were going to call my bluff.
Letting Herb get fired was the start of Bojack's lifetime of making horrible decisions. Now he's learned that it was a choice. He could have said no, and while there would have been consequences, he and Herb still would have remained on the show. This knowledge is enough to drive him into a state of rage. He threatens to burn his new contract, insisting that Angela is the reason his life is the way it is, and that she doesn't deserve to get what she wants. Angela, however, has her own take on the subject.
You play these games if I hadn't done this, if I wasn't so that. But you did, and you were, and here we are. Here we are. Because we did what we had to do.
Bojack has no excuse. He has no one to blame. Even if he was pressured by others, he made the choices, and that's what led him to where he is now. He goes back to what used to be his home, continuing to intoxicate himself. He watches his original audition, wondering how it all went wrong while simultaneously knowing the answer. It was him.
Buckle up, buddy. Your life is about to start.
The next thing Bojack knows, he's in a dream he has from time to time, where certain dead figures from his past are all attending a dinner and a show. I don't want to repeat myself since I've already done a video on this specific episode, but the highlights are Bojack attempted to end it all by quote unquote going swimming. Now that he's on the verge of death, his brain is attempting to prepare him for it. He talks about various philosophies of life, comes face to face with his fear of oblivion, and gets to chat with Diane just before things go dark. There are many back and forths this episode discusses, and all of them should be taken into account. But the most important topics are those brought up by Herb and Secretariat. Herb is promoting the lesson of the episode, that one should reject ending it all and instead live their life to the fullest, even when times get down.
Because there I was, 10 years later at Machu Picchu, and I realized there was so much more I could do in a life.
Throughout the dream, Herb is presented as the host and the one most at peace with what is going on. On the opposite end, Secretariat is showing the consequences of going against the lesson of the episode. He often presents himself as proud of ending things prematurely.
Best part, jumping off that bridge.
Jesus. What did I say about the Jesus talk?
It was my choice. I got to go on my own terms. A lot of people can say that.
But when the time comes, he demonstrates severe regret.
I changed my mind. I changed my mind. I don't want to...
It's okay.
Normally, I try to stick to Bojack's perspectives in these journey vids, but considering all this takes place in Bojack's head, I think it's important to establish why Herb is being presented positively and Secretariat negatively. Throughout the show, Bojack has come close to ending it all on multiple occasions, but this is the first time he's made it past halfway down. Now that there's no turning back, he can see what a mistake he's made. That voice in his head that keeps reoccurring and telling him to do the deed is nothing but big talk. If Bojack wants to find the happiness and peace he craves, he needs to do it by continuing to live, not by dying. Now, I don't think the show is saying that the other perspectives are wrong. In fact, there's a lot of truth to them. But Bojack is picking a side more so than the others, and he is not ready to die. And he doesn't. Bojack gets revived in the hospital and sentenced to prison time, where after a year, he's allowed to spend some time at Princess Carolyn's wedding. Before and during the wedding, he gets some one-on-one time with each of the main cast. These moments, being in the final episode, are meant to showcase where his final stand with them is. Mr. Peanut Butter still has trouble following through on his good intentions, and Bojack is still annoyed by some of his antics, but they end the show being friends. Bojack knows Mr. Peanut Butter cares about him, even if he sucks at doing it. And on some level, he does trust Mr. Peanut Butter. Todd remains Bojack's friend and continues to care about his well-being, taking him away from everyone when he notices he's down and encouraging him to continue his sobriety. After going through his own trials, Todd understands change more and how it's a process that takes time. That's true for everyone, even Bojack. Princess Carolyn and Bojack end off on a note of appreciation. Bojack understands how he mistreated Princess Carolyn and never cared for her happiness, but now he does. It would be easy to see the mock story they come up with as Bojack trying to steal the spotlight for himself, and in some ways it is like that, but it's more so a sign of maturity. Bojack wanted some way to show Princess Carolyn that he's changed when it comes to her. He cares about her happiness, and her getting married is the best way to make her happy. If there had been some crisis where she doubted herself, he would have loved to have been the one to push her to go through with it, as some sort of turnaround for all the crap he's put her through. Of course, Princess Carolyn already knew she had to go through with it, but she didn't know that Bojack wanted to tell her. At the end, Bojack asks Princess Carolyn if there would be anybody willing to represent him, hinting that he wants her. And she says this:
I can recommend some excellent people.
Some people take that as her rejecting the offer and distancing herself from Bojack, and I did as well initially. But honestly, from the atmosphere, Princess Carolyn's facial reactions, and how these two just reconciled with each other, it's just as, if not more likely, that she's accepting the offer and just phrased it as a sort of self-praising joke. It's difficult to make an official decision, but my happily ever after brain chooses to believe she accepted the offer. And finally, we get to Bojack and Diane, the relationship that had the most weight throughout most of the show. At first, they have their usual banter, But then things get real. Diane reminds Bojack that he not only tried to take his own life after promising her he'd be okay, but he tried and succeeded at making her feel guilty about it. At this point, Diane has become a much happier and much more mentally stable person. She's not LA Diane anymore, and that's a good thing. But she won't let herself go back, and she won't be dragged down again. While she never says it directly, Diane makes it clear that she's cutting Bojack out of her life. What they have is a toxic relationship, and it cannot continue. Before leaving him, however, Diane lets Bojack know that, despite all the bad, he helped make her who she is, and she's grateful for that, even if they can't remain in each other's lives.
I think there are people that help you become the person that you end up being, and you can be grateful for them, even if they were never meant to be in your life forever. I'm glad I knew you too.
And that's where the show ends, with Diane and Bojack chatting on the roof for what will likely be the final time, them staring at the stars with their own thoughts. So, where did Bojack's journey take him? Well, while it was a roller coaster, Bojack's journey isn't that big of a step. He's still alive, he still has a career, even being in prison isn't that big of a deal considering he's adjusted well and has been in jail before. So, what was the point of it all? What was the point of the show Bojack Horseman? Well, if we take a look at what's being said in these final moments, as well as what has been done throughout the series, we can paint a clearer picture. As Todd says,
You do the hokey pokey and you turn yourself around. You turn yourself around. That's what it's all about.
yeah, sometimes life is gonna bite Bojack. Maybe by his own actions or someone else's. But how he responds to that situation is up to him. Life happens, and sometimes it sucks. But it can get better as long as Bojack chooses to keep living it and improving it. And when he finds moments where he's the one screwing things up, he shouldn't simply keep going in that direction, and he shouldn't stop because it's too hard. He has to make sure he turns himself around and he keeps living. Because that's what it's all about. This has been Shady Doorags. So long, farewell, Auf Wiedersehen, goodbye.